Hello and welcome to the ReadMe video for the Ryouou Gakuen Outousai English patch. So just wanted to make this video just to show you guys how to apply the patch, just to make sure that it's very clear how to do it, as well as just some basic usage for the game itself. Quite easy. You're going to have this English patch xdelta file, and you're going to have these xdelta programs. So we can open up the UI program, and then you'll just want to make sure it says apply patch. That's the tab that's open, and you'll pick the patch file, and you'll want to pick this RGO English patch.xdelta for the patch file. The source file will be a Ryouou Gakuen Outousai portable ISO. It has to be for the portable, the PSP version. It does not support the PS2 version. So make sure that you have that selected. Again, you'll have to source that on your own. There will not be any advice on how to download that yourself or obtain that yourself or wherever you're going to get it, right? And then you'll pick an output file. Let us just pick something in this folder, and we will say English RGO.iso or something like that. That'll work, and then we'll patch, and it'll take maybe like a minute or less than a minute or so. It should only take about 30 seconds or give or take to finish. Looks like it patched successfully. We're good. And we should have English RGO.iso. So let me demonstrate how to use this on, say, PPSSPP, because it's kind of that's what I've been testing it with. Feel free to try it on console, but I do not know if it's going to work or how well it'll work. Let us go to load, and so let's go English RGO, and it should be that simple. It should just load into our the English version of RGO. So not all things were translated, and a lot of the menu stuff was not translated. So just to give you a brief rundown, this top option is continue game. Second option, begin game, options, then you have extra and install. Okay, so one thing to make sure that is very clear is do not pick install. It's gonna overwrite the pictures that were edited for the patch, right? It's gonna be bad. So don't do that. If you should happen to install by accident, I'm going to just try to say install anyway, right? Okay, so but don't install. Don't install. What will happen is all the translated CGs will no longer be translated, and you will be upset. So if that happens, go to wherever you have PPSSPP folder, and go to save data, and you might see this Ryouou inst folder. That's the installation. Maybe not a good idea to have that, to delete that while it's open, but we will delete it because we do not want the installed data. That will cause problems. A couple other things. Options. This says background music volume, so we can turn that all the way down if we don't want to listen to it. This sound effects volume, voice volume. This is system sound effects volume. So sound effects relating to like menus and whatnot, and this is sound effects relating to things in the game. Voice volume is voice out, which means whether or not you want to have the characters speak. You can even choose to have individual characters be on or off. I kind of doubt that anyone's really going to care about that, but probably just going to keep it on. Message speed. So for the English, normally it's set to this option, which means this is slow, this is normal, this is fast, and this is fastest, right? Normally it's set to this option for normal, but that's by default what it's going to be. But you're probably going to want it to be fast for this, because it'll kind of be too slow, in my opinion, if it's on normal. Normal kind of feels slow. Message auto speed. So this relates to the auto function of auto. The game will just automatically advance the text boxes. Again, this is slow, medium, fast, fastest. I find that normal is fine. Maybe you would prefer fast. I don't know. This is message skip options. So this option means that you will not be able to skip messages. You will not be able to fast forward at all. And this can be changed at any time, so don't worry about like committing to anything like that. But this means only stuff that you've seen before you're allowed to skip. And this means that you're allowed to skip anything you want, but you have to hold down the R button in order to skip. You have to hold down the R button. You have to press the R button to skip regardless, but like, this means you have to actually hold on to the R button to skip anything, but you're able to skip everything. Naming your character will, to make a file, you go to begin game, second option, right? And this will say name your character, and you'll be perhaps appalled that there are no characters here. I'm not going to explain exactly why that is. It's kind of technical, but the characters are down here on the bottom left corner. And if you scroll down, you will see the characters you have to choose from. So let us pick, of course, the classic name, Yoshi. Now you'll see that the name kind of progresses weirdly. It's not going to fill up the bubbles, right? But don't worry about it. You can pick any name you want. And it can be up to 6 characters. So let's do Yoshi music note. Pick any more, it's going to overwrite it. The last one, you're not going to be able to pick more than 7. Now suppose you make a mistake, you can use the L and R buttons to choose what character you want to edit. So let's say we want to make Yospy, I guess. Yospy. How about that? So that's the 4th letter. So let's replace that with the letter P, and you'll see that it changed to Yospy. Okay. Now, if you want to, now these options are just these down here. You can press them and they can move back and forth just like the L and R buttons do. This one is delete, right? So you can use this to delete a character. And yeah, you can do that. One additional thing to mention about names, naming your character, is there are some limitations beyond just 6 characters as the max. So in the original game, and part of the reason why you'll see these like 3 bubbles on the top and 3 bubbles, like they're split up like into groups of 3 like this, is because you had a first name and a last name for your character in the original Japanese version. But in this patch, we're only going to have a first name. However, one characteristic that kind of carries over for now is that you still have to have at least one character in the first name spot and in the last name spot. So effectively what this means is that you have to have a name that has 4 letters in it, right? So unfortunately that means you can't name your character something like Tim or Tom or other such names like that. My apologies. And so you might then think, well, if I want to name my character like Tim or something, you can like, oh, I have all these blank spaces, right? And it'll let me do it, right? Whereas if I don't have that, it won't let me, right? So it's like, oh, well, that seems like a workaround. Of course, it'll have the side effect that it'll actually write out the name Tim with a space, so your name will have a space in it. So maybe that's okay with you, but I would recommend not doing this because although currently this is where the available characters are, right? They're right here, and the rest are blank. That is not guaranteed to be the case in the future. I may decide to use some of these characters for other purposes in future patch releases. So yes, I would tell you to not really try to do that and instead stick with these characters, and your name has to have 4 characters. I guess maybe you could name yourself underscore or something, Tim underscore, and maybe that's a way to get around that. Apologies for that limitation, but That's just how it is right now. Maybe we'll find a solution for this in a future patch release. Something you'll find potentially if you're running this on PPSSPP with its default settings is you might notice that if you have texture filtering on linear rendering resolution, if you have texture filtering on linear and a rendering resolution of something higher than 1x, you will get these like weird gaps in the image. Right? You even see it doesn't just affect the text, it affects all sorts of areas in the game. So to fix that, you want to make sure that you have texture filtering to nearest, and that'll fix that. Everything. Rendering resolution can be higher than whatever, but you know, is it necessarily going to help you? I don't know, but make sure that texture scaling is also off. That will also cause problems for the text and also just the images in general. These images are not really designed to be scaled up. None of the graphics are designed to be scaled up, so have your options like that. If you press the square button, you can auto progress to the story if you want. If you press the triangle button, you can look at a log of what has been said previously, and you can even press the circle button to listen to the lines again. And pressing R while having your, pressing R will allow you to skip through dialogue based on your skip setting. Pressing X, holding down X will allow you to hide the text box. And if you press start, you can go to the menu. I was able to translate these. Another thing to note is that if you reach this part of the game where you'll see a dialogue choice that only has one choice for it, you might think, well, should there be more choices? And the answer is yes, there should be more choices. However, I have removed one of the choices here. The other choice will normally take you further into the game. However, that is part of the game that has not been translated yet, that goes beyond the scope of this first patch release. So I've removed it in order to prevent you from accidentally ending up in a part of the game that is not translated. So if you see this, don't be like, oh, there's some way to unlock the next one, or that's why like I'm stuck, right? I can't progress. It's like, no, you're just at the end of the patch, right? So if you see this, you can select this and it'll progress you through just fine. There's nothing you can, perfectly fine. It's just the other dialogue choice that's necessary to actually progress through the story more will not be there. Again, because it's part of the game that has not been translated yet. When the next patch release comes out that does translate that part of the game, I will re-enable that dialogue choice and you will be able to then pick it. So just to make that clear. And I believe that's really about it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask it in the comments section and I will try to answer. And enjoy the patch. Have a great time. I hope you love the story just as much as I do. I find it to be a very funny and entertaining game. So yeah, have fun.